Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the monthly book review program by English Literature Department of Yogyakarta State University. I am Diva Camilla. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for this session on feminism analysis and failures from Love Looks Pretty on You by Lang Leav. Before this book review begins, I would like to mention the agenda of our event today. As an opening, the first agenda is a brief introduction to feminism and Lang Leav, the author of the book Love Looks Pretty on You, that will be delivered by Miss Amalia. Then the second agenda is part 1 of poetry analysis that will be delivered by Mrs. Agnes. The poems to be reviewed are Idols and Slut Shaming. Followed by the third agenda, part 2 of poetry analysis that will be delivered by Mrs. Evita. The poems to be reviewed are Women's Anthem and My Mother. The last agenda is the elaboration of the connecting line between Lang Leav, her poetry, and feminism, which will be delivered by Miss Melani. It is now my pleasure to briefly introduce all of our guest speakers for today's session. They are both active members of the feminism community in Yogyakarta called Women in Action. There are Miss Amalia and Miss Melani. Women in Action is the first feminist community in Yogyakarta which was formed in 2015. With the aim of being a forum for aspirations and a place for discussion for women in Yogyakarta. Until now, Women in Action continues to actively carry out its activities as a form of response to issues related to women, especially related to sexual harassment. Miss Amalia and Miss Melani are graduates of English Literature from Yogyakarta State University. They got their bachelor's degree in 2018, and after graduating from college, they decided to join Women in Action until they become active members to this day. Furthermore, there are two of our English literature lecturers accompanying us today. The first lecturer is Mrs. Agnes, an English literature lecturer who specializes in social and cultural studies. Mrs. Agnes has received her master's degree at Diponegoro University in linguistics. The second lecturer is Mrs. Evita, an English literature lecturer who specializes in literature studies. Mrs. Evita has received her master's degree at University of Indonesia in literature. We invite these two lecturers to become speakers because they both master the fields of study that support our discussion today. Mrs. Agnes and Mrs. Evita are also supporters of the pro-feminism movement, which can be proven by their participation in many feminism seminars held by our campus. Thank you, moderator. Feminism is an interdisciplinary approach to issues of equality and equity based on gender expression, gender identity, sex, sexuality, as understood through social theories and political activism. Feminism largely arose in response to Western tradition that restricted the rights of women. But feminist thought has global manifestation and variations. Historically, feminism has evolved from the critical examination of inequality between the sexes to a more nuanced focus on the social and performative constructions of gender and sexuality. One of the figures of feminism is Christine de Pizan, a French philosopher who challenged the social restrictions on women and pushed for women's education. Feminism has three rough periods, each of which has different main concerns according to the target problem that must be resolved. First wave feminism. This period involved feminist activity during 19th and early 20th centuries, especially in Europe and United States. The key concerns of first wave feminism were women's suffrage, women's right to education, employment, marriage and property laws, and reproductive rights. Second wave feminism. This period involved feminist activity that began on the early 1960s in United States and spread all over the Western world. The key concerns of second wave feminism were raising consciousness about sexism, patriarchy, gender-based violence, domestic abuse, and marital rape. And then inequalities in the workplace, legalizing abortion and birth control, then sexual liberation of women. Third wave feminism. This period was happened during 1990s until 2000s, arose partially as a response to the perceived failures of second wave feminism. The key concern of third wave feminism were intersectionally the diversity of women, identity, gender, race, nation, social order, sexual preference, and then changes on stereotypes, media portrayals, and language used to define women. In literature, feminism is a part of the glasses used to criticize existing literary works. Some of the main concerns of feminism criticism are women's oppressions by patriarchy, the view that women are secondary, and cultural discrimination against women. By analyzing literary works using feminism criticism, we are more aware of the attitudes of society towards women, especially in cases where current attitudes harm or otherwise marginalize women. Feminism criticism helps the value of women and their contribution to literature and society to be recognized, and also elevates women to their rightful place in society as contributors and important elements of literary works. Now we are moving into Lang Leav. Who is Lang Leav? Lang Leav is a poet who was born in Thai refugee camp when her family were fleeing the Khmer Rouge regime. Throughout her career as a poet, Lang Leav received many awards, including the Contest Spirit of Youth Award and the Goodreads Reader's Choice Award. Lang Leav's first book, Love and Misadventures, was a huge success, and her other poetry books also became international bestsellers. Lang Leav actively participates in international writers' festivals, and her tours get a lot of enthusiasm from her fans. Through social media, Lang Leav builds relationships with her fans through her work, containing messages about love, loss, and female empowerment. In her latest book, entitled Love Looks Pretty on You, Lang Leav raises a sensitive issues in the form of feminism, which discusses relationships, mental health, and self-love. Thank you very much, Miss Amalia, for the insights. And that was only the beginning. Now we turn to the analysis of idols and slut shaming poetry that will be presented by Mrs. Agnes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Agnes.
Thank you, Miss Amalia, for the introduction. Now I'm going to talk about the next prose analysis from Lang Leav's book, Love Looks Pretty on You. Now we are going to talk about one of her prose called Idols. It is found in page number 45 in her book, and now I'm gonna read Idols. You put her on a pedestal, love her, adore her, crown her as your queen. Then you watch and wait for a slip, a split second when her guard is down. You would tear her into pieces just to claim a fragment of her story. No one can be perfect all the time. Why do you expect her to be any different? Why is she held to an impossible standard? Why do you take it so personally when she contradicts the version of herself that exists only in your head? You think you know her, that she owes you somehow, that her existence is only relative to yours. But she is her own person. She lives and breathes. She hopes and dreams. She has a life, a love, a family, a purpose. And she doesn't owe anyone a damn thing. So as you can see that this prose is about how often women are mistreated in society. They said you put her on a pedestal. People claim women as an idol. Might be from the physics, from how she looks, or her roles in society. All women have their own purpose, and they also have their dreams, their goals, their family, their loved ones. And it's often that women's rights are taken away from them, and that they don't have the same equality as men. For example, from education aspects, in workspaces, how higher positions are first given to men, then followed by women. Well, talking about now, women deserve the same acknowledgement, and I guess that it is now the 21st century that, of course, equality must be in our life, in our everyday basis. And it shouldn't be something that we have to argue anymore, because things have been changing all the time. So the value what we can get from this post is that women's freedom and also independence should also be given to them fully. The key words that we found here is her existence, life's standard, and purpose. As you can see. So this is the figurative language, and we have metaphor. Example, but she is her own person, count her as a queen, and then hyperbole. You would tear her into pieces just to claim a fragment of her story, and last is consonance. Then you watch and wait for a slip, a split. And also, she lives and breathes. She hopes and dreams. Analysis. Many women are used and mistreated in society, and people claim them as an idol, as someone that they can use just however they like. But women are also human. They have rights and dreams of their own that they must pursue as well. The idols analysis that many women are used and mistreated in society, some are abused, and every human being makes mistakes, that's including women. Even so, women have an important role in our history and in our lives. So please, the society needs to stop putting standards for women and let them have independence of choice. But no one can be perfect all the time. Even idols make mistakes. But if you see the positive side of women as an idols, there are women who have great courage and bravery and stands as a role model towards other people. For example, there's Oprah, there's Queen Elizabeth II, and also the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard. That's why women does have roles in our lives, and throughout history, there have been great leaders out there. Okay, next I'm going to talk about a prose called Slut Shaming. And this one is page number 81 in the book, and I'm gonna read it out. A quick read to you guys. Slut Shaming. Misogyny is like a malignant virus. The way it seeps into your life and puts you into a position of painful vulnerability, where even the people who love you will judge you for your past, where the act of sex degrades a woman and celebrates a man. The infuriating double standard where a man will admire a girl in a string bikini and in the same breath tell his partner that her skirt is too short. From the title, we can probably catch what the prose is telling us about is body shaming. Slut shaming is about body shaming against women and criticizing women's body and the outfits that they wear. Also, how double standards of men's thoughts and misogyny still occurs. And last is how the act of sex degrades a woman and celebrates a man. The similarities between idols and slut shaming is how both prose talks about how women are often mistreated in society. There have been claims over the past years that men own their woman. This is wrong because women have the rights to their freedom, including the freedom of choice and what they want to wear. The differences between idols and slut shaming is in idols, it talks more about how women belong to men. Meanwhile, in slut shaming, it talks more about how women dress and body shaming. It is often accused how women's outfit could put them in danger. This includes violence and sexual assaults, which are often done by men. It's not because how they are dressed, but it's the lack of knowledge that men have and how they cannot control their desires. The concept of how sex is sensitive when it's about women, yet it is acceptable to men should be stopped. You know that body shaming is something very sensitive towards women, and there are these beauty standards in every single part of the world that is different to one another, which makes it very sensitive because you can't clearly judge someone as bad or good looking because everyone is unique. Every woman has their own beauty, not just facial, not just physical looks, but also deep in the heart. It says here that the infuriating double standard where a man will admire a girl in a string bikini and in the same breath tell his partner that her skirt is too short. This case is probably because of the amount, why the author write about this is because of the amount of victim blaming in abuse and sexual abuse, how men tend to attack more people who wear very minimum clothing. Attacking a person based on what they wear is not right, and any attacking is definitely wrong. So people need to change their mindset to hold up against their own desires, and this is because of the limit of knowledge that they have. That's why they need to have this conscious of thinking right, that thinking that the person you're attacking is someone's perhaps daughter or mother aunt or best friend or someone important to their life, to someone's life. Imagine if you have a friend, a daughter, a family member, a mother who's going through that. I'm sure you don't want that to happen, right? There are many talented and smart women around the world who have the same level. If men is doing something that something perhaps sexual or something, the society will think that, oh, it's okay, it's like, you know, something that is normal. When women does it, they probably calls her a slut or whatever it is. But here, women have the same rights to do whatever she wants, to love her body, to take care of her body, to love whoever she wants, and the power of choice and freedom. Taking away the process of misogyny takes very much time and energy, because it's quite a long process, since it has been happening since way back, years back then. And it has turned into traditions. That's the sad part. It has turned into traditions where people's mindset is always like, you know, men is always higher than women, and it's become like a part of the way people think, and we need to change this, that it is not right, you know. And gender equality doesn't mean that women is above men, but the same level. Just like the author mentioned, the misogyny is happening all of everywhere we turn, and therefore there needs to be a change of perspective. Misogyny needs to stop, because it has been a tradition that's been going on since the last few years, and therefore there needs to be a change of perspective, how to think correctly without taking away someone's right. And victim blaming should no longer happen. Therefore, the understanding of human equality in society should continue. In the beginning of the book, the author, Lang Leav, said, "My sixth poetry title, Love Looks Pretty on You, is a celebration of female spirit. In this book, I weave the threads of my past to complete the tapestry of my present." This is a book, what it looks like. And thank you for joining. Thank you, everyone. See you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Agnes, for giving such informative and interesting presentation. Next, we will move to the analysis of Women's Anthem and My Mother poetry, which will be presented by Mrs. Evita. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Evita.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself first. My name is Evita Damayanti and I'm lecturer in English Literature at Yogyakarta State University. So ladies and gentlemen, in this nice occasion today, I'm as a speaker in this seminar, and I'm going to talking about feminism on Lang Leav poetry. And the title of the poetry are My Mother Was a Woman and Woman's Anthem. So ladies and gentlemen, first I'm going to talking about feminism on women's anthem poetry. This poetry are talking about freedom and equality for women in social life. This poetry show us that women can choose their interests, women can make their decision and choices. For example, women can choose their job, their style, and also their career for their future. We can find so many value on this poetry. First is women empowerment, and the second is talking about supporting for all women, and the last one is we have to respect and lift up for all women. The key word on this poetry are women, powerful, respect, and also freedom. Next, I'm going to talking about My Mother Was a Woman poetry. This poetry are talking about women, like a woman's anthem too. But the highlight of this poetry is talking about the important roles of a woman in a family. This poetry are talking about first, mother as an important role in a family, and the second, mother or a woman is an important person. Mother is an important and strongest person because they always give birth and take a risk and sacrifice their life for it. This poetry also show us that mother is an important. So I'm going to talking about the similarities and the differences between Women's Anthem and My Mother Was a Woman by Lang Leav. So both of these poetry are talking about women value, and the differences of this poetry. First, My Mother Was a Woman is talking about the importance and role women in the family is important as a mother. And then Women's Anthem, it's talking about women equality to men in social life, women freedom, and also respect for a woman is important. So I think it's enough for my analysis of My Mother Was a Woman and Women's Anthem by Lang Leav. So thank you for the attention and thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Evita, for the interesting talk. Lastly, we come to the end of the agenda. The elaboration of the connection line between Lang Leav, the poetry, and feminism. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Melani.
Thank you, Amalia. So, let me introduce myself first. My name is Melani Widyasaru, and I am a member of WAN, or Women in Action, a feminist community that based on Jakarta. And in this occasion, I will share to you all about women, about feminism issues, and that's related to Lang Leav poet, as the previous speaker have said before. So I will start with gender equality refers to equal circumstances between male and females, not to put one gender higher from the others, but it's equal in any rights and obligations. But unfortunately, gender inequality keeps happening until nowadays, especially to those who called women or female. Lang Leav, in her book entitled Love Looks Pretty on You, has brought up some issues as well as feminism. And as the previous speakers has said before, they have analyzed 4 books entitled My Mother, Women's Anthem, Idols, and Slut Shaming. And if you look deeper on those books, we could see that Lang Leav has raised women empowerment and their rights on it. These issues actually has been raised in over many years. Thus, it keeps happening. So, in my opinion, I think that Lang Leav wants to speak her mind up and encouraging women through her book. Because no matter what role they are, what parties they are belonging to, women are as powerful as men. They have the right to do whatever they want to do. Okay, this is the next slide. And since we talk about these issues about gender inequality, I've collected some data related to this. And we don't need to look far, but that is happening in around us, in our society. And as we can see in the title, it's about women and career. So, there is no doubt that in this era, women there's many women who have reached their high level of education, graduating from college and got their degree or even triple degree, and but women and men have the rights to go to whatever studies fields and level they want, and they can settle and got a great job as men did. But there's also no doubt that gender inequality didn't happen at all. Okay, so there is some data that I have collected, as you can see at the slide. In the economic sector, for example, according to Indeks Pemberdayaan Gender Indonesia in 2010 until 2017, women as professionals, leadership, and technicians in Indonesia only reach 46.31%. In 2018, based on survey Angkatan Kerja Nasional that released by Badan Pusat Statistik or BPS, tingkat partisipasi Angkatan Kerja or called TPAK, women's TPAK is less than men's TPAK, which only 55%. Furthermore, the proportion of men in the formal labor sector is almost double from women. And meanwhile, in politics, based on Indeks Pemberdayaan Gender Indonesia in 2010 until 2017, the representation of women in chairs is 17.32%. Then the composition of women in DPR members in 2014 until 2019 was dominated by men with a total of 463 people with only 97 women. That's a big amount, I think. And as we look at this data, we can conclude that gender equality yet doesn't work as at its best. Okay, we have talked about women and economic sector and politics, and but actually that's not the one that we face. There's another issues that we face it every day, every moment in our life, especially for women. It's about women stereotypes that our society built. It's about stereotypes that called women are supposed to get married, growing their children, and doing household. Not supposed to have a high level of education and not to go to work. And though this can happen because affected by our culture, people should know that this stereotype couldn't be applied at every woman. Furthermore, these stereotypes can impact the woman's life itself. They start to think that they don't need to go to school, they don't need to have a high level of education, they don't need to achieve their dream, achieve a job, because they will end up for being a mom and doing a household, just it. And this is not a good news, right? And however, even if women will end up being a mother, growing their children, they still need a great education, a high level of education, because they will be the first school for their children in the future. They have a very important role. Okay, now we come to the conclusion. I think I have said a lot and I just want to share that, we realize it or not, we live in a society that still has big issues related to gender inequality. Many things related to gender inequality keep happening, such as the belief that women were not as strong as men, and women were not supposed to have a hard job like men. Women were supposed to marry, grow their children, and doing household. But after all those things, just like Lang Leav trying to say in her poem, women are powerful. They have their own right to create their own life. They can do whatever they want to do, and not to do whatever they want. because there is no setting that women should get to door to write. So I think that's all for me. So
Thank you very much, Miss Melani, for such informative and interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of this program. I would like to take a little summary from what the speakers have presented. That literary works as simple as poetry contain many meanings that we can learn, depending on what perspective we use to examine the literary works. By examining literary works using certain glasses, we become more aware of the issues that occur around us, whether it is poetry or other forms of literary work. Because literary works are born from great people who care about their surroundings and voice their concerns through their works, such as Lang Leav, who channels her concern about women in her latest book, Love Books for the New. I would like to thank all the speakers for the quality time and the interesting presentation. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you for your participation in this program. Hopefully, this program will be beneficial for everybody. We look forward to seeing you at next month's program. On behalf of English Literature Department from Yogyakarta State University, I wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you.